Hello, everybody. You know how this goes. It's Deck Tech Day, which we do live on Twitch every Wednesday. And we go over lists submitted uh, by you, the people. And sometimes we have different goals. Sometimes we're just taking a look. Um, and I'll give you my insight and answer your questions about them. We've got 4 lists for today. We are starting off with good old Edgar Markov, submitted by Tobias the Third. By now, you all generally know what Edgar Markov does. Super fair and balanced Eminence ability. When you cast another vampire spell, you make a 1/1 vampire token. And then Edgar also has stats that you never see on the board. He is also 4/4 with first strike and haste, and when he attacks, you put a counter on each vampire control. But he never gets cast, because that's how Eminence works. So, when Tobias submitted this deck, they said they're looking for a general vibe check, wanting more of a flavor vibe of vampire powers, like as I think the theme of the deck is we're really focused on like thematically vampiric abilities, but they recognize Edgar brings a lot to the table power wise anyway. So they use the tags. So I'm gonna sort it by that for a moment so we can take a look and go over how they categorized these cards, and then I will talk about. I'm gonna go back to that view and talk about the deck as a whole. So, Black Parade, we have a bunch of Anthem effects since we are going very wide with vampire tokens. We have some blood token outlets or creators or both. We have a solid package of card draw. It's a little bit of everything. Lord Dracula question mark. So I I'm not sure what that category means. But I guess these are all cards that care specifically about vampires. Just a little splash of ramp. We have a bunch of permanents. We don't want them going away. Spawn Sire. So these are our token generators. As you all know from the show, Charismatic Conqueror in the right hands is pretty brutal. And by the right hands, I mean Nerd Girl. Shapeshifters have changelings, so those are also vampires. Alenda's Hierophant and Elenda, just the volume of creatures that they generate is so absurd. I'd like to see some more consistent generators as well, like Maverin and Preacher of the Schism, Bloodline Keeper, and the backside of Edgar also makes vampires. All right, classic vampire power: blood sucking, life draining. So we have a lot of aristocrats pieces: Blood Artist, Vengeful Blood Witch, Vein Ripper. We also have stuff like Bloodthirsty Conqueror. So when they lose life, you're gaining it. Lots of little draining effects. We have removal. You know, the old vampire ability, targeted removal. A couple ways to bring things back out of the graveyard. That is vampire-y depending on what kind of vampires they are. Sometimes like the thing that they turn has to like die first and then come. I don't know. Vampires. There's a lot of vampire lore. And then theft. You know, vampires famous for stealing stuff, I guess. We have the old three-legged Olivia. And Soren. We have a couple just generic wrath effects. I like the single untagged Butcher Malakir. Like this this definitely has a category. This definitely could have been put in one of the other categories, but like it's just that. 2 untagged instants, you know, targeted removal and crackling doom, and then lands, 37 of them. All right. I like it. I'm going to sort it back just because this is the best. This is the way that I process decks the best, is without the tags. They have to count everything they steal. Exactly. Right. And that's the only kind of vampire. So, first, let's talk a little bit about building Edgar, because you know, a lot of people think like, oh, you just kind of throw vampires in, the deck does the thing, and like to a certain degree, yes, that's true. All right, you robbed the princess. Tell me about Shilgengar, because I actually don't know the lore for this character, so I don't know if you're memeing or not. But if we take a look at the creatures here, we have 31 creatures. That's pretty decent. But do you notice something particular about the curve? Something about the curve that's going on here. I'll give you one more look. Okay, those are all of our creatures. We are suspiciously devoid of cheap vampires. This is our only 1-drop. This is our only 1-drop. And then we've got a couple of 2-drops. But the majority of our vampires are kind of expensive. So, you know, maybe if this is a way to try to power down Edgar, I can understand that. But Edgar is at his best when you have a lot of cheap vampire spells to cast, because each one of them brings with it another 1/1. And so I think if that was not intentional in this build, you definitely want some more cheap vampires. Honestly, does not matter too much what they are, but more 1-drops, more 2-drops. Oh wow, so vampires didn't exist before Shilgengar, like at least in this plane? Because that's kind of sick. I didn't know that. All right. Also building for this. We saw that there were 3 of these board wipes. We have Damnation, and Wrath of God. As far as decks go, Edgar is probably one of the least likely ones to want a board wipe to happen. All of our, like, everything we're doing commits to the board. So like, sure, a board wipe will solve some problems, but usually at the expense of a lot of our own stuff. I don't think you run any of these. Especially when there are so many good one-sided board wipes for vampires. There's Olivia's Wrath, 5 mana. Each non-vampire pretty much dies, leaving all of your vampires left. The old Kindred Dominance. Destroy all creatures that aren't of the chosen type. Or the smaller one, which the name I can't remember right now. The -3 to everything that's not of the chosen type. If somebody can remind me of the name in the chat. And even just like Vampire's Vengeance, which I'm going the wrong direction. Vampire's Vengeance, 2 damage each non-vampire creature. And we even have use for Bloods. Yeah, Crippling Fear, thank you. Yeah, there we go. Choose a creature type. Creatures that aren't that type get -3. So I think I would much rather have those over these board wipes that just hit everything. Oh yeah, Rob. Yeah, Olivia's Wrath was the first one that I brought up because that's like that's the best option for us here. There are a couple. I'm just gonna point out some cards that I like personally for vampires and for Edgar in general. And then I'm gonna get to some that I thought were really good for like vampire power flavor. So I think Cordial Vampire is an auto include for me. Just this or any other creature dies, you put a counter on each vampire you control. And that is any other creature on the board, period. Like you play this, you play Olivia's Wrath, and now you have lethal on all 3 players. You know? This and you're fine to play this whenever, because if you play it early, it starts to build up your army. If you play it late, then you kill a bunch of stuff and you pump up your board. This is like really high up on my auto include list for vampires. Plus, we were saying we need more cheap ones. What? Sanctum Seeker. That's the thing I'm looking for? Sanctum Seeker? Yeah. This one too. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. This also really helps you to either eliminate players or bolster yourself. Because sure, vampires gain some life. But that is not like a primary thing that they do. You will gain some life. But if you shuffle up Edgar, then you are going to be probably #1 target at the table. So you will need to be able to healthily swing and not worry so much about crackback. So yeah, Sanctum Seeker for me is pretty important here. Hey, Higher, how's it going? I just like this guy. Master of Dark Rites. You can turn any creature into a dark ritual. That's just cool. That's just cool. And again, it's a cheap vampire, which we are lacking in this deck of. Okay. Kind of in the similar vein, Malakir Blood Witch. Again, we're doing the same thing. Enters. This is what Gray Merchant for vampires. Each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control. You gain life equal to life lost this way. I do think these sorts of effects are important. For the same reason, you want to be able to bolster your life total like significantly, because you will be number one target. Yeah, I don't believe Asterion is in here. No Viscera Seer. I love a good Blade of the Blood Chief. I like this card not in vampires. And so being able to get the bonus is twice as good. Creature dies, you put 2 counters on the equipped creature if it's a vampire, which it always will be. The reason, so this is like still fine by itself with no other help. But imagine getting that equipped to like Elenda or Elenda's Hierophant. Like, that's terrifying. You know? Or put it on Vein Ripper, you know? Anything. And this one also triggers off of any creature dying, period. I am a big fan of big plays, so I feel like I would want Sora in here, especially since we're running some of the pricier, like mana cost vampires. Being able to sneak one in. Let me switch this so you all can read. Being able to sneak a vampire in on turn 3 is really strong. And we've got Butcher Malakir, Vein Ripper, Olivia. Like, you can run away with the game just going Sorin turn 3, here's Olivia, here's Butcher Malakir. This card kind of got overlooked. I don't see a lot of people playing this, even though it just is good. I think because it was hidden in the zombie deck from Ether Drift. So 1, people ignored Ether Drift, and 2, it's in a dedicated zombie deck, so people are not going to be looking for vampire stuff in it. This is a regeneration attached to a land for all your vampires, and for you other creature type players, take note. It's also plays well with, you know, super well supported types Shade, Skeleton, Spectre, and Wraith. And then the last one for me is All Out Assault. This is not a vampire card, but we are going wide, and I think the card is cool. That's all I have for the recommendation. We do also have like a number of attack triggers, and giving all of our little 1/1 vampires Death Touch is very relevant. So I just think this is a fun card for this deck. Yeah. Yeah, see, there you go, Rob the Princess. You have you been running the Accursed Dune-Yard in those decks? So those are my general recommendations. But if we're looking for more vampire flavor, I have some choices for you. Here's the Golden Throne. I think this matches Edgar so well because, you know, Edgar, royalty, so should have a Golden Throne. It is immortality, sort of, because if you would lose the game instead, you exile the Golden Throne and you don't die. And it even works with what we're trying to do here. You can sack a creature for 3 mana. So this is a 3 mana rock. And we always have expendable 1/1s to sacrifice to it. So to me, that's a big flavor suggestion. Also, I was like, hold on, we're doing vampire flavor and we don't have Go for the Throat? Like, there's definitely, there's vampire-y versions of this, right? Yeah. Like, that's just, that's so vampire-y. You know? Can cut, like, Crackling Doom or something. I feel like the last thing we need is our vampires to also be able to summon lightning. Dawn's Truce to me is actually kind of thematic here. Not only do we want this type of effect, we want to be able to protect our board, but I feel like that's what vampires would do. They're like, "Ooh, it's almost done. We got a truce. We got a truce until the sun goes down again, right?" You just have to truce at dawn, otherwise everybody dies. Oh yeah, Vona's Hunger is definitely a good replacement. Vampire-y, everybody sacrifice. Feed the Swarm. I thought about it, Dr. Ryan. I thought about Feed the Swarm for this. But here's the thing. We have Feed the Swarm for the most part has been like all buggy. Right? There's not a generic version of Feed the Swarm, I don't think. I guess, well, okay. This is, or is that that's not a vampire, right? Yeah, bugs. Kind of bugs. Bugs. Oh, is this vampire-y? The Secret Lair one? But the other reason is we don't need this effect in this deck. Feed the Swarm and Withering Torment, the 2 black spells that can destroy enchantments, you only need to be running in decks that cannot handle enchantments otherwise. Otherwise, they are not that great. So as long as we've got other ways to deal with those things, like Anguish Unmaking or Mortify, we don't need those cards. This is one of my personal favorite vampire cards. That's probably because it feels very blue. But New Blood, this is like so vampire-y. And we're already on we're already doing stealing effects. But God, this is so flavorful. Like, you're tapping a vampire to bite an opponent's creature, you gain control of it and turn it into a vampire and switch all of the text to vampire-y things. This allows for so many cool plays too. Like stealing like the goblin player's something something or the dino player's stupid thing and using all of its abilities for vampire stuff. Like you will not catch me ever playing any sort of vampire deck that doesn't use this. And finally, I think you run a Patriarch's Bidding here. You probably don't run the werewolf version of it, because that's what we'll do the OG, even though that's like tentacly, but Patriarch's Bidding feels also very vampire-y, especially Edgar. Like Edgar as the patriarch, he's like, no. It's not time for you to die yet. And this is just really strong for 5 mana. Incredible how this card has held up over the years. Patriarch's Bidding was played in Standard when during Onslaught. It's mono red goblins splashing double black for Patriarch's Bidding. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this Edgar deck. You know, we're only running the one game changer, but I think Edgar as a commander, no matter how bad you build this, unless you're like actively shooting yourself in the kneecaps with the cards that you're putting in, this is already like, you should be looking at this bracket 3 and up. Like, unless you built Edgar 0 vampires, then like his floor is already like bracket 3. This seems like a pretty fair build of this. We get to do a bunch of cool vampire-y things without being, you know, it doesn't look like we're trying to super combo off or anything. And I like trying to stick to a very vampire feel to it. Hey, Christmas. Yeah. Very, very solid. I don't think I had much else for this, but yeah. Yeah, the big thing I would change is more cheap vampires. Oh, the cat, yeah, the Voldaren Estate. I don't know if it is. Like, there's a lot of adjustments you could make here, but I think the ones that I went over are the big, like, the big ones. Nice. All right. Our next deck. There we go. Submitted by Zombie Token is the Wandering Minstrel. This card is so strong. And it doesn't read like it. But this card is incredible. It's so good. For 2 mana, lands you control enter untapped, and then it has a bunch of text that usually doesn't matter. Beginning combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, you make a 2/2, and then you can pump all of your creatures equal to the number of towns that you control. This is not a town build of it from Zombie Token. They said, I'd like help making it a bit more interactive. Currently, it has multiple win cons and generically good landfall stuff, but they think maybe it could be trimmed and streamlined as well. So, you know the drill. We're going to take a look, and then I'll address the interactivity of it and what I think you could what you could cut or what you could add. So we have Nissa is run here because the 0 ability allows you to draw lands for free and sometimes cast spells for free. I'm generally not too big on this Nissa, but I think it's fine here. Ren and 7, I think significantly better. Draws you a bunch of lands, can return, or not return, can just dump lands from your hand onto the battlefield. And hey, put them in onto the battlefield tapped, not with Wandering Minstrel. Creatures, we have a little bit of ramp, and then all the landfall. So many landfall. And a lot of the usual supporting casts that we see, like Azusa, Dryad of Elysian Grove, Sage of the Maze, helps to point us in the direction of what this deck is. This specifically works with gates. So you can make a land into an XX, where X is twice the gates that you control, and you can tap gates to untap Sage of the Maze, and since it taps for 2 mana, essentially it doubles your gate mana. We get to run Nine Fingers Keen, another common gate commander, a lot of extra like land drops, more landfall stuff. And then we have a couple odd ones out here. We have a Hoarding Broodlord. As far as I can tell, this is just a tutor for specific what? Yeah, you untap Sage of the Maze. Tap and untap the gate you control. Untap Sage of the Maze. We have a Tower Winder here. I never see anybody play this card. My opinion has fluctuated on this. It's a 1/1 reach Death Touch. So it's a very good blocker. It buys you some time, and then it just tutors for Command Tower. So like, it draws you a good land. I feel like if you compare this to like Baleful Strix, it's worse, but not a lot worse. Sorceries, we have some more ways to put more lands onto the battlefield. Dig Up is a tutor that I don't get. I don't see played very often. It's Cleave is confusing, but this is essentially 1 mana, search for a basic, or 4 mana, search for anything. We have some board wipes and Emergent Ultimatum. So I don't know what the Emergent Ultimatum pile is for this, because you search for 3 monocolored cards. So it means you can't search lands at all. I assume Hoarding Broodlord is part of that. But I think this might not be an auto-win Emergent Ultimatum. I think it's just here to honestly tutor for things that you want. Because usually when people play this card, it is because there are 3 cards in the deck where if you pick those 3, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it'll set up for a win. But I think this is just here pretty honestly. Yeah, it's true that this is a 5-color deck. There are a number of multicolored cards, but there's still a lot of like high-value targets for this. Broodlord, Avenger Zendikar, Belos, Kodama, Geode Rager. You can find Austere Command with this, and we haven't gotten to the other stuff yet. instance. So I think this is our one game changer in the deck is crop rotation. Obviously, very good for this deck. And then we have a cute little interaction package. Some counter magic, some removal. And Void Slime is a catch-all. Artifacts. We have the Singular Soul Ring. And no other rocks. Regalia searches for lands. Head Shredder allows you to cheat lands in. And a Greaves. I don't know what this Greaves is here for. I will be honest. I don't see anything that we, like, need to haste. And I don't see anything that, like, we need to spend that mana to protect. Like, sure, Wandering Minstrel is very important to what this deck is doing. But he costs 2 mana. We have Exploration for extra land drops. We have Druid Class for extra land drops. And then a nice 40 lands. And yes, this is gates. We have many, many gates. With the hope of finding our Maze's End and winning the game with it. There are some sneaky gates that are not just tap lands to keep in mind when you build something like this. Talon Gates Mandara, in my opinion, one of the best lands for Commander, period. It is a gate. The Black Gate from Lord of the Rings is a gate, and happens to make some stuff unblockable. Fine. Thespian Stage can become a gate. Vesuva can become a gate. So we have some ways to get enough gates from Maze's End to work. So let's discuss. There are a lot of cards that you could sub into a deck like this. Stuff like Omo, which Red has mentioned. Or like bounce lands that Rob Prince has mentioned. Oh no, Oma Queen? Yeah, Queen. Because she can produce more gates. But, yeah, and Revis in the chat has got my number one. As soon as I went through this list, I was like, oh, that's immediately the first thing I noticed that was missing is Baldur's Gate. We, of course, want to be running as many gates as we can. And this one produces mana equal to the number of gates that we control. You totally should be running this in here. Yeah, okay, so these do not help with your gate count. 10 or more gates with different names. We are committed to a landfall strategy. We have a lot of landfall payoffs. And this was also mentioned by Enreves. Traveling Chocobo, I would definitely be running in this. Is it 1L? Yeah, this is doubling all of your landfall triggers, and it allows you to play lands off the top. Yeah, auto include for sure. And like, you know, everybody's making a lot of really good suggestions for this deck. I think there are a lot of different ways that you can build it, or a lot of interchangeable parts, as long as you've got gates, ways to put lands onto the board, some landfall, any sort of combination of those things, fine. But what we specifically want to do is make this deck more interactive. Because if you look at the creatures, we don't really have much here that does anything to anybody else. Geode Rager being like the only one, really. I guess Omnath, kind of, since when it or the elementals die, you deal 3 damages. And like we have 2 board wipes here, and we have a couple, like a couple selective removal spells. I have some suggestions. Let's go down to the lands. We have a lot of gates here. We have a handful of basics as well. And then we have a lot of like just 3-color comes into play tap lands, which are nice because they don't come into play. But I don't think we need to be running all these. I think our lands can help to compensate for this. I think we could run Maze of Ith here. We have a lot of extra land drops, so playing a land that does not produce mana is not too much of a downside for this deck. We have a lot of ways to tutor for lands, so sometimes if you're facing the Voltron player, then this can be really helpful as a way to interact. I think any number of the channel lands would be good for this deck. For many of the same reasons. Tutorable. You know, you can even use the bounce lands. So like, oh, I really gotta, I don't want to waste my land drop for the turn, or I don't want to waste my 3 land drops for the turn. So you put Otawara on board, and then you just bounce it back with one of these Karoo lands. So like, definitely Otawara, definitely Boseiju. And even Iganjo, I think, gets overlooked too often. Like, this is very, like, 4 damage kills a lot of important things. And this is not counterable. Like, it's counterable. Yes, it's counterable. But, like, people don't run Stifles. People don't play around Iganjo. Also, all of the MDFCs, this is a requirement, I think, every single stream to say, you should be playing MDFCs. They just are, they are always worth it. And this deck is pretty great for them. Not only do they, in a pinch, function as a land drop, since we will often have many additional land drops. But the, you know, relevant spells, and they also work with the bounce lands. You can play this earlier in the game as a land, and then you're like, oh no, I really have to kill a creature. Bounce land, return this, cast the other side. So, Fellow Profane, Sink into Stupor. Those for sure. I'm trying to think what else. Like you could run the white one. Yeah, definitely the Witch. Yeah, like I would just be running most of these. Yeah, which enchant? Oh, yeah, you can run the green one is fight. Yeah, like all of these are interaction. Wow, I did not spell it right at all. Yeah, Bridge Risk Battle, like all of these is free to run. All you have to do is replace lands, which they are already. So I won't go through all of them, but yeah, MDFCs for sure. We only have 2 board wipes here. We have Austere Command, we have Time Wipe. And they're okay, I guess. Austere Commander is nice because of the flexibility. Time Wipe is fine. But if we're running gates, let's give me this is a 3-mana board wipe. X damage each creature with X's number of gates you control. Plus, like, thematic. Come on. I do feel like you could probably upgrade these board wipes, but like I'm not too concerned. They get the job done. I don't know, somebody told me somebody once told me that I think it's either Mauled or Elk or somebody said that Nihile's intervention is an auto include in like most things, something like that. And I was like, I definitely disagree. I think Nihile's intervention is pretty great here. Being able to search for X lands of like any lands is so good for this. And then on top of that, you also have flying board wipe. And I think this deck is not too concerned about getting attacked on the ground. Like you have a bunch of creatures that can contend on the ground, but we don't have a lot that stops flying. So this kills a lot of things that are not yours. Now, I'm going to suggest this card. I think it is not quite as good as people thought initially, but it feels really thematic here. And I always like cards that give my opponents the opportunity to make the wrong decision. So disorienting choice, each opponent chooses an artifact. You choose one artifact or enchantment per player, per opponent, and then they decide either they exile the thing that you chose, or they let you search for a land and put it on the battlefield tapped. So for smart players, they should be just letting you kill the thing, because you don't want the Maze's End player to get free, I put whatever land I want onto the board. Particularly if these are not coming into play tapped. But a lot of players will be like, I don't know, I kind of want my Soul Ring. And they will let you. So this, even though against good players, it will not be the thing that you really want, it is a good rate for that. So there's a little bit more interaction. Um, this is not interaction, but I think it should be in this deck. Consult the star charts. Dig equal to number of lands in your hand, or not in hand, in play. So sometimes you don't need more interaction. You just need to be able to get the interaction when you need it. And I think this is that kind of deck because lands, a land-based strategy is usually hard for people to disrupt anyway. So you don't need to stop people doing things to you. You just need to take away big threats that are going to win the game before you can. And I think having stuff like this allows you to dig for the removal that you need when you need it. And if you don't need it, it just grabs you something relevant. Speaking of, I think you replace this D-Spark here. This is very efficient removal, so 2 mana for an exile of a big thing is great. But if we were running a low number of removal spells anyway, then you don't want to be looking at the D-Spark in your hand that can't remove that 3 mana permanent that is going to kill you. So, like, you know, your basic swap here would be this to, like, Anguish Out of Making or something, or anything else. Same for Abrupt Decay. I would swap both of these spells to things that have a wider range of what they can hit. Our deck is ramping anyway, so it's okay for these spells to cost a little bit more. Like, even if you replace these with just, like, Beast Within, Generous Gift. Cool. We don't need our removal to be the most mana efficient, which usually why you pick Abrupt Decay and D-Spark is because of how mana efficient they are. We need stuff that deals with whatever problem is that we're looking at currently. Yeah, like Void Rend also would be fine. We want range as opposed to efficiency. The last one I have for this deck. Our commander is the Wandering Minstrel. I would not run Birds of Paradise or Ignoble Hierarch in this deck. Here's why. Let's assume we play one of these on turn 1. Getting to 3 mana on turn 2 is fine, but generally our turn 2 play wants to be the Wandering Minstrel. This is an effect that we want to be online as soon as possible, so that all of our land drops or land ramp from here on out is untapped. So it almost feels like a waste of mana. Sure, there's like maybe the dream of we have turn 1 Birds of Paradise and our turn 2 follow-up is Azusa and we drop a bunch of lands. But I don't think we should be counting on that when we don't have many 3-drops that have that kind of impact. And now Red has kind of touched on the other issue here is the majority of our lands are tapped lands. The number of times that we will be able to play our 1 mana dork on turn 1 is way less than your average deck. Like, how many lands... Let's actually do a count of how many lands in this deck allow you to play turn 1 Birds of Paradise. We have Command Tower, 6 forests, so we're at 7. Seven. That's it. There are 7 lands in the entire deck that allow us to play a dork on turn 1. So I think these are 2 free slots that you could put anything else in and the deck would be better. This deck should just be going turn 1 tap land, turn 2 Wandering Minstrel. Done. You can add some more interaction in these slots. As far as any other though, like streamlining or trimming, I don't think you need to do much else. Like this is we're in 5 colors in a lands strategy. The number of pieces you could put in this deck, like the number of interchangeable pieces is so much that I'm not going to nitpick about like, well, you could optimize this card here, or like I think otherwise the deck is pretty well balanced and gets the job done. So there's some things. I know there was some talk of like maybe Head Shredder not being worth it in this deck. I think it's fine. This card is definitely stronger when there is a self mill theme as well, which we don't have in this deck. But its floor is a 5/5 that probably hits a land. I don't have a problem with that. Like replaceable, sure, but it does the thing the deck wants to do for a reasonable rate, and the card is cool. I would consider. So we are in bracket 3 because we have a crop rotation. I think that you just bring this up to bracket 3, like true bracket 3. As far as game changers go, crop rotation is probably one of the weakest on the entire list. And also I think one of the least like egregious. But I think this 5-color good stuff pile that wins in a way that's really hard to interact with is pretty bracket 3. So dropping in like a Field of the Dead seems real strong. I don't know. I don't play a lot of game changers myself, only because I like seeing fresh cards, and you know the game changers are some of the most played cards in the format. But I'll definitely recommend them because they doesn't mean they're not fun, and doesn't mean they're not good. Yeah, like maybe another tutor, since our deck is so centered around doing one thing. This also seems like a good deck for burgeoning. Oh, burgeoning and Ghost Town, that's awesome. Like ensure that you get a landfall trigger on every player's turn. Yeah, this is I think a solidly built deck. if I had to cut more cards, I'd also cut Druid class. I just think that this deck or this card doesn't do what I want for a good enough rate. You have to pay 5 mana before you get an additional land drop, and I think the life gain is like not enough for the first level, and then the final level is just make a big chumpable creature. Mech. Yeah. I think no other complaints though. This seems pretty solid. Let's head to this Azula deck submitted by Twilight Sovereign. This card only does messed up things, which I guess is on theme for the character, right? So this is Fire Lord Azula. She's a 4/4, 4 mana, firebending 2, so she attacks and makes 2 red that you can use during combat. But then, you know, the thing that everybody cares about, whenever you cast a spell while she is attacking, you copy the spell. Any spell, she just has to be attacking. So I've encountered this card twice so far. Once was in the Decked Out episode where Nerd Girl played Fire Lord Azula, and that deck was designed very much in her style. So we were it wasn't like it wasn't Storm, it wasn't, you know, take a 20-minute turn kind of thing. It was very fair as far as Azula decks go, and it still was very scary. And then I played one other recorded game, but I won't talk about that so as not to spoil that. But I can tell you that in that game, she got pretty much one turn to do the thing, and it was a mistake. So yeah. So Twilight Sovereign said they're looking for 3 cool card suggestions to add, 3 of my favorite choices from their list of 47 considering cards, and the 3 least favorite cards in the deck. So I assume those would be the ones to cut. Let's look at the deck. We have Professor Onyx, mostly because of the Magecraft ability. When you cast or copy, then each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Anger, so we can throw it in the trash and be able to swing with Azula the turn that she comes out. We've only got 4 sorceries. Draw some cards. Arcane Heist allows us to cast instants or sorceries from opponents' graveyards during combat. Because remember, if you have a trigger that happens on combat damage, like Cypher, that is still in combat, and that is still counted as Azula currently attacking. Even though she's already dealt damage, she is attacking until combat is totally done. So these spells would be doubled. So specifically, the Arcane Heist gets doubled because Azula says, oh, you cast a spell during combat, so 2 Arcane Heists, and then each of those Arcane Heists casts a spell from an opponent's graveyard, so that is a total of 4 things off of that. One thing that gets copied, like Arcane Heist casts 1 spell, which gets doubled, and then the second copy of Arcane Heist casts a thing, which gets doubled. Baral's Expertise is a card. Chandra's Ignition is a card. We have 40 instants because that's where the meat of the deck is. We want things that we can play during combat. lots of little cantrips, so it's, you know, 1 mana to draw a card, and it's it's nicer when stuff like Crimson Wisps or Aphotic Wisps work with what our deck is doing. Aphotic Wisps allows us to make Azula almost unblockable. Crimson Wisps allows us to haste her if we need to. We have a couple ways to protect her or stop things that might be trying to remove her. We have some effects to bring her back if she is destroyed. And then we have some mean stuff. Double powered twice. And hey, we might even have enough mana to bulk up and flash it back, which is certainly lethal on somebody. We have some cards that are just good copy targets, like Demand Answers, or Big Score and Unexpected Windfall, since if you copy one of these spells, you don't have to pay the additional cost again. So this ends up being pay 4 mana, discard a card to draw 4 and make 4 treasures. Yeah. I mean, like, we have so many different abilities that we can use during combat, which is just a smorgasbord of things. Stuff like Frantic Search is very good to copy since it will untap 3 lands twice. So you actually go mana positive on this. You spend 3 and get 6 back. I like Bolt Bend here because this is we only have one real creature in the entire deck, which is Azula. So she will guarantee that this costs 1. We have some artifacts, and this is cute. If you flash in an artifact or anything, if you flash in anything during combat, that you get the trigger from Azula, and so this would be copied. So for 1 mana, you're getting +2 and first strike. We have some mana rocks. And Leyline Axe, sure, why not? I think a 5/5 double strike and trample Azula is pretty strong. We have a couple enchantments. Leyline of Anticipation is here so that we can cast anything with Flash. Leyline of Resonance is pretty great here since the majority of the deck is instants or sorceries with a single target. Duplimancy also capitalizing on the fact that most of our spells are single target. And then we have 37 lands. Great. So let's go for a couple things, and then I'll talk about my 3 favorites in the deck, my 3 favorites from considerations, and the 3 that I would cut. 1, I like how much we've committed to only things that we can double with Azula. There's only 4 sorceries, but Twilight, you're here. I love this Arcane Heist inclusion, and I hate the other 3 inclusions. So if I'm missing something with Night's Whisper, Baral's Expertise, and Chandra's Ignition, tell me now, because otherwise, get them out of here. Get them out of here. These don't do anything for me. I would rather this Night's Whisper be any instant that draws me cards. Baral's Expertise, I don't think does anything for this deck that we care about. And Chandra's Ignition, we only have 1 creature that we could do this with, and Azula is not fantastic for Chandra's Ignition. So, I would replace all 3 of these for sure. That way, Arcane Heist is the only one that we can cast at sorcery speed. And we're okay with that because of how good it is in this deck. So that to me was like one outlier here, because I otherwise really loved how committed we were to what this deck is doing. My three favorites from this deck. Two are kind of in the same vein. They are Press the Enemy, which is return a spell or permanent to its owner's hand, and then you can cast instant or sorcery with less cost from your hand without paying for it. So with Azula on board, you go Press the Enemy, copied, bounce two things. Each one of those copies cast something from your hand for free, which gets copied. So just like Arcane Heist, you get so much off of this one thing. And this is so flexible. It can be a kind of a counter spell. It can be removing like blockers or other issues. And then so many copies. Same for Electro Dominance. So this is deal X damage to any target, and then you cast something from your hand for free without paying its cost. Great. Shoot two things because it gets copied, and then cast two things which also gets copied. This will also allow you to play other things at flash speed, since Electro Dominance lets you cast it immediately. So, you know, it can be an artifact or an enchantment, and that will still get copied. Couldn't you bounce your Press the Enemy with the copy and go infinite? Yes, as long as your target costs 4 or... Oh, I guess, yeah, because you cast this. You have original copy. Azula triggers, makes... you cannot. I knew there was something stopping this. Press the Enemy can only target an opponent's thing. I think, because... Let me check. Actually, this is important because the wording here is ambiguous. Return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. This could be read as return target spell, any spell, or a non-land permanent an opponent controls. Or this could be read as return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls. Both have to be a thing an opponent controls. I believe that is the way that this functions. It can never target a thing an opponent control that you control, so that it can't go infinite, but we can check. Let's see. Our notes do not clarify. This does not clarify, but I am almost positive that if this could target things, that it would be worded differently. It would be like return target spell or target non-land permanent in opponent controls to separate those as two different things. I think would be the way that this would be templated if it could target one of your own things. Yeah, so I love those two. And then the last one is this Livewire Lash. This is a card that I enjoy a lot anyway, because what a cool and unique effect. Whenever you target the creature that it's equipped to, you deal 2 damage to whatever you want. You know, with any of this, with our entire 40 instance that we are also copying. This triggers on all of them. And I think that a lot of Azula decks could not run this because they're trying to do other things. But this deck wants to target all the time. So I love it. Let's look at the considering list, because I'm here to pick three that are in the list that I like. Now, I think that Twilight Sovereign did a very good job on choosing the right cards for this deck. I think the majority of these considering cards I would not take over the cards that are actually in the 99. That said, the ones that I would consider are Price of Progress. We can do a lot with this deck, but at a certain point, we need to figure out how we are converting all of this into a win. Because I think we'll be able to do a very big Azula turn early on. We can do a big Azula turn on turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. We get a ton of value out of it. But I don't know that we consistently like kill a player after that. And then the whole table goes, oh, right. We need to stop them at all costs. And you still probably can get around a bunch of it. But being able to just copy a Price of Progress to finish off the table is very strong. We need to be careful, of course. Do your math. Make sure that this does not kill you as well. But I think, in general, our opponent's life totals will be lower than ours. The other ones that I like in here, Twinning Staff. I think is very good here. We are going to be copying so many spells, so getting an extra copy for free is great. And this is a card that we just put on the board before Azula comes down. So I really like the Twinning Staff here. And the last one is actually Rowan. We have 41 instants and sorceries. The amount that this one mana reduction will save us over the course of the game is crazy. Plus, we want to be able to jam as many spells as we can in our big Azula turn. So reducing every one of those spells by one is really important. So I would be running this, or even just other things that are similar, you know, like Thunderclap Drake, Goblin Electromancer, Harsh Mentor, and any of those sorts of things, I think make a huge difference in what you're able to do when you attack with Azula. How are you going to protect your Planeswalkers? You don't worry about it. You don't need Rowan to stick around for the whole game. You just need her to stick around long enough. So, like, do you jam this into a table of creatures that you can't stop? No. But I'm fine with playing Rowan with a mana open so that I have just enough to, like, pick off a single creature that's headed my way. That I'm okay with. Yeah, most of the cost reducers are tied to creatures. So I know I was only supposed to pick a couple cards that I would cut from this, and I already talked about the sorceries, but if we look at the deck, we have a number of copies of this effect. Until end of turn, target creature gets something, and then when it dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. I don't want these. I will cut all of these. We have Abnormal Endurance, Demonic Gifts, Presume Dead, Fake Your Own Death. I think those are the ones. And then like Butcher's Glee kind of falls into that a little bit. The reason is these are not good to be copied. Because like sure, some of them come with a little boost, which you'd get double the boost, but the returning it to play gets nothing out of being copied. You know? Butcher's Gate. So regenerating it does not remove it from combat unless unless something would kill it. Because regenerate is weird. So like the way that regenerate works is and it's funny because this like this came up very lightly on the Pack It Up episode. Not in gameplay, but in something that Ben asks like earlier in the episode. So it sets up a regeneration shield, which like is a rules nightmare, honestly. But it just says, okay, the next time that this creature would die, instead it doesn't, and it's not removed from combat until that happens. And that's why they stopped doing regenerate, because it's super confusing. Yeah, I would cut all of those things. My guess would be these are here because we're worried about Azula dying, and I would put anything else in their place. Counterspell, since those are useful not on your turn, or they can stop a lot of other things. I would replace these with other redirects, or I would replace them with stuff like this, like Eel Umbra. So this flashes in, gives a buff, and then the totem armor, if Azula would be destroyed, instead she's not. But this persists, like this just stays on there for as long as it goes, and then you get a second copy of it. So that's actually relevant. So yeah, I replace all of those. Now, oh, and my other cuts. I would cut Leyline of Anticipation. Our entire deck plays at instant speed, and none of the things that aren't instant speed are cards I care about this ability for. I don't think we need that. Same reason I don't think you need Born Upon a Wind. We're already playing at instant speed. We don't need it for a few things. I would cut Anger. Because Anger needs to be in the graveyard for us to give haste to our creature singular. And the number of ways that you can discard in this deck is actually not enough. We have Demand Answers, Thrill of Possibility, Laughing Mad, Big Score, Unexpected Windfall. But and like Big Score and Unexpected Windfall are also cards that we want to be casting when Azula's already out and attacking. So I would want any other haste enabler. Like I'm not too high up on like Greaves, but I'd rather Greaves over Anger. Or even run Hall of the Bandit Lord. And just use that to cast Azula. Oh yeah, not Greaves. Right. Not Greaves. But like Boots would be fine. You understand what I'm saying. I don't want Anger because I think it will usually not do what you want it to do. All right. Some suggestions. I get to say it twice. MDFCs are busted. I would run every single MDFC that you possibly could in this deck. The number of them that are relevant spells that Azula can copy is very high. The downside to running them is almost nothing. We already have like a bunch of basics that we can swap out. You know, like I won't even go over all of them, but like, you know, Fel the Profane is removal. Sink into Stupor is a like this could protect Azula from removal, or can get blockers out of the way, or like there's Waterlogged Teachings. This is a tutor. We can double tutor? Holy crap. Yeah, I would just put I would put all of the instant speed ones in for sure. And probably even the non-instant speed ones. Like I don't know if this is strictly a no creatures period, but like even Pinnacle Monk being able to find any of our 40 some instants out of the graveyard. Yeah. We're also missing the enchantment removal spells in this. We are in Grixis, who famously struggles to deal with enchantments, but we have no Chaos Warp. We have no Feed the Swarm, although that is sorcery, but we also don't have Withering Torment, the instant speed version. So I would be running I would be running Chaos Warp, I would be running Withering Torment, because otherwise we have to like I don't even know that we have bounce here. We get totally we have we have Press the Enemy. We get stuffed by an enchantment a lot of the time here. I love Prismari Command here. Love this card already. Even when not copied, it just like does so many things for you. Whether it is just a simple, hey, end of turn, I'll cast this, I'll make a treasure, and I'll draw 2 and discard 2. Really sets you up for a nice turn after that. Or, you know, 2 damage, remove something, destroy an artifact, remove something, and then doubled, this almost pays for itself if you choose treasure. Keep in mind, when you copy a modal spell like this, you do not get to change the modes. You usually get to change the targets. Like Azul says, you may choose new targets for the copy, but just the way that Magic rules work, you cannot switch the modes. Oh, this is I really want to run this card. The pips may be too much, but what the potential here, and also I never see anybody run this card. Give me Invoke Calamity. 5 mana, 4 red pips. So like, it may not be doable here, but we have like some treasures to help fix and stuff. So this is, you can cast up to 2 instants or sorceries with total value 6 or less from your graveyard without paying their costs. So we have so many targets for this. Azula on board. Cast Invoke Calamity. Get 2 Invoke Calamities. Each one of those casts 2 spells. Each of those spells is copied. Yeah, this is true. Azula creates 2 red mana herself, so this should be pretty castable. That's just so much. That's so much. So I please run this. Please run this and tell me the tales of what it does for you. Red, you are thinking of Dance with Calamity, which is a sorcery, unfortunately. Yeah, Dr. Ryan in the chat talking about possible board wipes for this, because this is also like a real consideration. We are able to do a lot when Azula attacks, and then we get demolished by Crackback. I could not find anything like specifically. Yeah, you do have the Arc Bond. You do have the Arc Bond here, which is also very cool. So point this out. This does stack. So it gives Azula, whenever this creature is dealt damage this turn, deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. So you double cast it. But the problem is, you still need damage to happen to Azula on that turn. And if it doesn't, yikes. So keep this, totally keep this. But we are lacking in ways to deal with the board. This is the one that I liked. I love a good amphibian downpour. Now, this I'm not going to call it a non-bow, but this doesn't work as good as you might think. So it has flash, so we can cast it and have it doubled by Azula. But the storm is a cast trigger, so that does not get copied by Azula. Azula is not recasting, she's just making copies. But I think this is a really strong ability for this deck, because the storm from the original copy, you will probably get a bunch of copies because of all the Azula things that you've done earlier in the turn. And this cleanly answers so many things by turning them into frogs with no abilities. Like, you'd just be surprised. I really like this. Yeah, the other one The other one is Delayed Blast Fireball. There it is. 2 damage each opponent and each creature they control, and then if you cast from exile, 5 damage. So this can be set up ahead of time in preparation for your Azula turn, or just casting it for 3 and hitting everything on the board for 4 is usually going to be enough. And then here's just a little, like, kind of quality of life upgrade. Because you have, or maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I would include Lindblom as one of your lands. Because it has an instant attached to it that is also very relevant for you. Because the wizard shoots everybody for 1 whenever you cast a non-creature spell, which is the entire deck. And you could just double it. Yeah, this is pretty great. I don't play a lot of decks like this anymore, but man, am I jealous. Oh yeah, Volcanic Fallout. Like you just want your board wipes. This is just a general statement. Is you want all of your board wipes to be advantageous for you. So that usually means that they avoid your things or they do a thing that is positive for you. And I think the only times that you want to be running symmetrical board wipes is if you're playing actual control that knows it's going to be committing to the board very little, or it is using that, like its game plan is specifically to board wipe a couple times to get to the late game and then do a thing. Or sometimes if you're playing a thing that like gains indestructible or something, that turns those symmetrical ones into one-sided board wipes. But yeah. Yeah, I think this loves, like, because Volcanic Fallout is the instant speed one, right? With Cascades or something. Or am I thinking of a different thing, right? It wasn't a... Oh, it can't be countered. Oh, this is a different one. Okay. We don't want this because it kills her. What am I thinking of? What are the Cascade ones? Is like Call the Tempest, right? Is that an instant? No. What's the other one? Because is that also a sorcery? You all know what I'm talking about, right? There's one that cascades. That's not Call Forth the Tempest. Volcanic Torrent, which is also sorcery, so never mind. Okay. Yeah, I think that is where I'm gonna leave it for this deck. Yeah, this makes me super jealous. Azula is so cool. Desync is fine. I think whatever you wanna run here. I'm trying to. The main thing I would be thinking is there a board wipe that gets benefit from being doubled? But I'm not coming up with one off the top of my head. Right? Yeah, not in these colors. But yeah. So there you have it. Some cuts, some suggestions. Yeah, I'm very jealous of this. All right. Moving on to a deck submitted by Red. It's Hearth Hall, which I think is so busted. This precon was incredible. So Hearth Hall itself, 4 mana for a spacecraft, so it is just an artifact when it enters, well, like when you first have it down. You can station it by tapping other creatures you control and put counters onto it equal to the creature's power. As soon as it has at least 2 counters on it, it gains the ability to pay 1 tap, sack a land, draw 2, and get an additional land drop this turn. And then once it has 8 counters on it or more, it becomes a 6/7 children with flying, vigilance, and haste. And then when you sacrifice a land, each opponent loses 2 life. Now, there are a lot of ways to build this. I have never seen anyone do Red's way to build this. He said, "This is a pretty standard Hearth Hall list, but with one caveat. We will soon learn that he is lying. This is not a standard Hearth Hall list at all. And the caveat is a pretty big one. There is only 1 landfall card in the entire deck. And that is Ice-Till Explorer, because that card is bonkers. This is the only landfall card in the entire deck. Land was too strong with the full suite of landfall cards. I mean, like, agreed. Even with that restriction, it still performs well at mid-bracket 3 levels. I totally believe that. It really needs its commander to win for the most part, because stapled onto this, you sacrifice a land, each opponent loses 2 life, is a really good win condition. And without the landfall cards, you've stripped away a lot of other ways that this could win. So Red has submitted 5 points for me to look at, which actually makes me very happy. The more that you give me to work with, I think the more specific I can be with your deck text. So I love this. Point 1, any good win cons for this deck other than the commander? 2, the deck can stall out and the draw package is only okay. Can we help? Yes. Point 3, some cool options that may have been overlooked. Point 4, what is missing in the deck overall, like game plan wise? And 5, thinking about adding some earthbending cards. Makes sense. What would be the recommendations? All right, let's take a look at the deck and we'll hit all 5 points of it. So our creatures, we are doing a lot with lands, just no landfall. Since we are sacrificing a bunch of our lands, effects like Aftermath Analyst and Summon Titan, bringing all of our lands back onto the battlefield, is something we really need. We have, I think Avendo Brush Razor is a really good card that not enough people are playing. Whenever you sacrifice any non-token permanent, you exile the top card, and then you can play those from exile as long as you've sacked a permanent this turn. Easy. We have some ways to play lands out of the graveyard, since we know we're putting them in there. Scouring Swarm is one of the other win conditions for this deck. It's like Scoot Swarm in reverse. Every time that you sack a land, you make you make an insect, or if you have 7 or more lands in your graveyard, you make a copy of Scouring Swarm. So that is a way that this deck can win. That is not the commander. Zell is very good here with an additional land drop that also gets bounced. We have some good sacrifice stuff with like Gitrog, Korvold. Titania cares about our lands going to the graveyard as opposed to entering. Squirrel Wrangler is very cute here. It makes me happy to see this card. You sack a land, make 2 squirrels, or sack a land, give all squirrels +1. So like this is a way. You could make a bunch of squirrels and then send them into combat. Love that. We have land ramp. Reprocess here is cool because you're going to sack all of your lands and draw for each one of them, and then you are probably playing something like Splendid Reclamation to bring them all back. Formless Genesis also allows us to like generate some relevant permanents, some relevant creatures. You can just turn every land in your hand into a creature with power and toughness equal to the number of lands in your graveyard. Cool. Oh yeah, we should point out that Nahiri's Lithoforming or Scape Shift at home. Sack X lands for each one. Draw a card, and then you can play X additional lands this turn. Our instants, we have some interaction, some removal, some more ramp. Particularly nice since these are sacrificing. Reign of Filth is actually filthy here. Each land you control can be sacrificed for black mana. So this allows for a really, really explosive turn. And then Constant Mists, which I think was something that was suggested by the chat earlier for the Minstrel deck. This one is really good here. We can just fog every turn. And the sacrificing lands is like an upside for us. Zurin Orb, easiest way to sacrifice your lands. Brood Chip gives you an extra land drop and then allows you to start casting from your graveyard once you've stationed it enough. Play lands from graveyard. Play lands from graveyard. More land drops. Lands enter untapped. And Need for Speed, another land sacrifice outlet that also gives you haste. We have 42 lands. Love to see it. And I just want to point out, I really liked Tomb of Urami here. I never see this card. So you can tap for a black and deals the damage to you if you don't control an ogre. But you can pay 4, tap it, and sacrifice all lands you control to make a 5/5 flyer. You can make Urami. So like the reason you don't see this card is because it's awful. This card is terrible. Except in this deck. If you have Hearthal on board, fully stationed, then this probably just kills the table. And even if you don't, it's just a great way to put all your lands in the graveyard to set up for like Splendid Reclamation or something. You won with Tomb of Urami the other day? That's awesome. That's good commander. All right. We have a couple things to go over with this. So, number 1, other good win conditions for this. The short answer is no. The short answer is no. There are not any other good win conditions for this deck if we are not doing any landfall. Like, there are bad win conditions for this. Or other win conditions that are like, well, okay, sure. You could always do, like, Crater Hoof. Boo. But it does get the job done. You could do, like, Exsanguinate or Torment of Hailfire or whatever, because we are also making a bunch of mana. Same. Boo. My two suggestions, since a lot of times landfall decks, if they're not winning from an actual landfall trigger that is doing something, they'll play like Avenger of Zendikar or Ravenous Baloths or something that is putting a bunch of creatures onto the board so they can overrun the table. We don't have a lot of good options for that aside, and you've got most of them already. Scouring Swarm or Titania. But you could be running two more that kind of do a similar thing. Baloth Prime is from the Precon. And I think this does a good job of that. Whenever you sacrifice a land, you make a 4/4 beast. And you untap Baloth Prime, which eventually becomes a 10/10. It is a bad land sacrifice outlet itself, but I think the amount of land sacrificing we're doing, this does actually generate enough bodies to be a lethal threat. And the other one, also from the Precon, it's the other face commander. Zarl, when you sacrifice another permanent, you put counters on another creature equal to Zarl's power. Like, the only other way that this deck wins, or is like building scary creatures. So just like dumping counters onto like a Scouring Swarm token, or I don't know, anything else, I guess, is another way that you can do this. Plus, this is another copy of play lands from Graveyard, which is pretty important for this deck. So there's my two suggestions for WinCon. I think though, like I said, there just aren't a lot of good options for this. You are often going to be winning with Hearthhall, and that's fine. Like, the win condition is in the command zone, so you always have access to it. Number two, can we help with the draw package? Sure. That we can do. Escape to the Wilds is a nice option for this. This is essentially draw 5, and you get an additional land drop, which is relevant for your deck. You can go with some Jund land classics. How about Lord Windgrace? Discard a card, draw a card, and you are probably discarding a land since you have 41 or 42 of them to draw cards. This also plays into a lot of what your deck wants to do. I mean, like, I think Lord Windgrace was the commander for this kind of deck until Hearthhall dropped. And then Augur of Autumn, a less like a cheaper effect that you have to figure out how to turn on, but I think is pretty reasonable to do here. So like, even at its base, it allows you to play lands from the top of your library, so we love that. And then as soon as you have 3 different powers among creatures you control, you can start casting creatures from the top as well, as a form of like card advantage. Gravestorm. This is a card that I don't know what it does off the top of my head. Opponent may remove a card from the graveyard from the game. This is bad. card's bad. I was just run Phyrexian Arena. The other thing that I like, so it depends on how the deck plays. I couldn't get. This is a deck that is like playing for the long game. So it was harder for me to like goldfish this to tell if these are effective. But you're running a reprocess in here, which I really like. And when I was playing the Hearthhole Precon, the ways that I won most often were using reprocess, or not the Precon comes with Bantu. God Eternal Bantu as the functional copy of this. So enter second in number of permanents, draw that many cards. I would be running these effects because earlier in the game, they can be just like, you don't have to full wipe your board. You can just sacrifice the things you don't need. But also, I want to point this out to everybody. I see a lot of people running reprocess. This card was printed in Thunder Junction. It is cheaper and strictly better. Pitiless Carnage costs 1 black pip less. You can sacrifice any number of permanents. So while reprocess is only artifacts, creatures, and lands, you still draw the same number of cards, and you can plot it earlier in the game to be able to cast it for free on a future turn. So those of you who are running reprocess in any deck should just upgrade it to Pitiless Carnage. And if you need more copies of it, also run this card. But that's one that I would be using to complement this effect in the deck, since we definitely want it. Point number 3. Are there any cool cards that might have been overlooked for this deck? That is my specialty. We just saw this do some major work in the Decked Out episode, the Avatar episode. Tectonic Split. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice half the lands you control. It itself is hexproof to help you not get blown out, but then your lands produce 3 mana of every 3 mana. Your lands tap for 3 mana. Oh yeah, dog. But you're thinking like the slightly smaller version of this. Overlaid terrain. This is sacrifice all lands you control, and now your lands produce 2. Tectonic Split, definitely a safer, like a better version of this, but this totally works as long as you've got like Aftermath Analyst or something to follow it up to bring all those lands back. But yeah, Tectonic Split, that pays off immediately. Oh, this is another one. I think I talked about this last time for a deck, but Walk-in Closet for these decks that want to play out of their graveyard is just an upgrade to a lot of these effects. So the Walk-in Closet half, 3 mana, you can play lands from your graveyard. Great. That is the exact same as like Crucible of Worlds. But then later on, you can unlock the other half for Forgotten Cellar and cast spells from your graveyard this turn. Which is also a form of card advantage. So this covers something you were looking for before and is just an upgrade to Crucible of Worlds. And then a card that I think you just run in this deck is Caveron. One of the planets from Edge of Eternities. You can, once it's stationed up to 12, which incidentally these lands will just do. Like, you'll have to trust me. These lands are great, and if the thing that they do kind of plays into your game plan, you should be running them. This one, you pay 2, tap and sack a land to make a 2/2, and then all of your creatures get +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. That means that you have a much better chance of winning the game with like your weird Squirrel Wrangler play or an army of Scouring Swarms. I would definitely be running this in the deck. Okay. Point number 4. What is missing in this game plan? Yeah. Tival's Judgment, I think, is fine. I saw the suggestion for this, but this falls into the category of card that I typically do not include in decks. So Tival's Judgment, when one of our cards leave your graveyard, you choose one of these modes: draw, treasure, or make a 2/2. And we have a lot of things in the deck that can allow us to play cards from the graveyard, which would then trigger this ability. Unless what the thing that the card does is incredible, I don't like I don't like something that requires something else in the deck to function at all. And that's what this card is. Unless the thing that it needs is our commander, I don't like to include stuff like this. This card does nothing unless we have a Crucible of World effects on the board. And like, sure, we have a handful of those things in the deck, but the likelihood that this is dead is too much for me to care. And it doesn't do enough for the upside of drawing a card or making a 2/2 sometimes. So I would not run this here. We're looking for what this deck is maybe missing. And I think Red touched on this a little bit, saying, well, hey, are there other ways to win without the commander? Because the commander does a lot. If I was playing against this deck and I was trying to win, I would shoot this commander in the face every time it hit the board. And I think a lot of players that are smart will do the same thing. So let's fix that problem. One command beacon does a lot of work in this deck. The fact that this is a land that we can then recur over and over and over again means that we do not have to end up paying like 10, 12 mana for our commander that's been blown up over and over again, especially since it is just an artifact when it comes in. I think this shores up a big problem in the deck of players being smart and removing Hearthhall constantly. The other thing is, to me, the best plays that you can make in a Hearthhall deck are sack all my lands, bring them all back. And we have cards that can do that. We have Aftermath Analyst, which can bring all your lands back. We have Titan, which on Chapter 2 brings all of your lands back. And we have Splendid Reclamation, which brings all of your lands back. Beacon does nothing against the dumb players, though. But that's the beauty of it, is there's no downside, because then it's just a land. And then you win the game against the dumb players. I would want to be running more of Return All My Land effects, because that allows for so many more big plays, even without Hearthfall on the board. Sometimes you just need, like, I need a burst of life gain. Sacrificing to orb, return all your lands. Great. Sometimes you need to refill your hand. Sack all your lands, cast reprocess. Or sack all your lands to reprocess, and then bring all of them back. That is the strongest play that this deck can make. So give me more of that effect. Will of Assaulti also allows you to, like, kill somebody. This is mill 3 cards, return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, and put X counters on a creature where X is the number of lands you control, and it gains trample. That turns any creature you have on the board into, I'd like to murder you now. The other one that is pretty good here is World Shaper. The classic version of this effect. This is even better in this deck, particularly because you have so many ways to sacrifice it when you want to. Much more than your average deck would. Now, we Casual in the chat is bringing up the best one of these. If you've got a Lumra, definitely run it in this deck. Comes with a bit of a price tag, but yeah, this is I think one of the stronger versions of this effect. Yeah, Lumra's so good, but if you don't have it, the other two are good budget options for it. But I think those are the two, like, things that I saw in this deck that I would want shored up more, was Command Beacon as a way to prevent getting removal out of the game, and more ways to bring all the lands back. And then point number 5, Earthbending. What can we add to this deck? You get so many goodies. All right. Bossing Say, auto-include. It's in the mana base. Easy. You can Earthbend for 3. It can Earthbend itself. This is now a staple in these types of decks. Bossing Say is so good. How about Tough Hard-Headed Teacher? So for this deck, we don't really care about big earthbending. We just want to be able to earthbend the tiniest bit onto each land and then sacrifice it and bring them back. This, I think, is the most efficient for that. Top Hard-Headed Teacher, so enters, discard a card, return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Great. We don't care that much. But the second ability, whenever you cast a spell, Earthbend 1. So this is going to be able to Earthbend a ton, constantly. We don't care about the lesson part at all, but we'll always be able to Earthbend, like, all the time. So yeah, and that's a good point, Red, that it also gives you bodies that you can use to station Hearthfall. But yeah, I think this Toph is the best option for getting a lot of your stuff Earthbent. And this is the other one. Beifong's Bounty Hunters. Whenever a non-land creature you control dies, Earthbend X, where X is that creature's power. every death, including the bounty hunters themselves, gives you earthbending. Notice this is non-land, but not non-token. So also all of the Scouring Swarms will give you triggers. Also, all of the squirrels will trigger it. All of the elementals trigger it. This is real good in this deck. Those are my suggestions. Beautiful. I forgot to do this before, but there you go. Red, that is the link for this deck on Moxfield. Since we keep them all unlisted to just keep our account tidy. So that way you can see everything that was added. I put stuff into the sideboard. Twilight, I think you are still here. Here is your link. And then for anybody else that wants to see these, here is the Wandering Minstrel one, and here is the one from Tobias. Okay. Good. I'm definitely glad that we did not add any more decks for today, because I would have had to say at this point, like, sorry. Oh my god. Ollie, get out of here. Get out of here. We're terrible timing. Also, thank you so much for the raid. Hi everybody. Hello. I am also headed out right now, but what you missed was some Commander deck techs, which we do every Wednesday. We will be doing more next week. But I think for now we need to send you somewhere else cool. But I really, really appreciate the raid, Ollie. I hope you had a good stream. I hope you're enjoying New Standard. I'm probably going to try and play some paper, try and qualify for things. Send them where the mana... What does that mean, Ollie? Send them where the mana is. The Norlids know where the mana flows. What are your words? Wow, first time chatter, turd gobbler. Hey, I'm glad you know me. Turd gobbler. Ollie, I don't understand your words. That's not your real name? I don't understand. Why would anybody not use their real name on the internet? All right, everybody. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'll be back here at the latest next Wednesday from starting at 2 p.m. PST to do more deck techs. But you'll probably see me, or you'll definitely see me or Nerd Girl in the meantime on this channel at some point in between, playing Arena and other stuff. But for now, I have to go and record more Magic-y stuff. So I will see you all. Say hello to Astrals for me, a very good friend and much funnier than me. I will see you soon. Goodbye.